Welcome to FiberChronicles. I am Bonnie. Today I am doing a video that is a book review and finished object combined. The book I'm reviewing today is Debbie Bliss's book, Simply Baby, 20 Adorable Knits for Baby's First 2 Years. The copyright for this book is 2006. Most people have heard of Debbie Bliss and know that she does some very beautiful patterns. This is the first book of hers that I have owned, and I thought I would do one pattern out of it and review the book so that others can know how I felt about it. Debbie Bliss Simply Baby, 20 Adorable Knits for Baby's First 2 Years. When we open it up, very nice dots. Those are really pretty. I love them. Copyright 2006. And it talks about all the different patterns. I'll be looking at that in the back later. It has an introduction. Talks about types of yarns. And she does talk about, she uses her yarns, and her yarns, she recently stopped making yarns or producing yarns, and so you'd have to find equivalents for those. Talks about garment care, the knitting basics. This is such a nice section. It includes drawings that are easy to understand. They have the shading in the drawings and stuff, so that it's fairly easy to tell when something is behind and in front of the needle, or behind and in front of itself. These are some of the most understandable drawings I have seen for descriptions. It also has written description of what you're supposed to do. She includes every stitch or technique that you will need in order to be able to make the patterns that are in this book. So if you're a beginning knitter, this is a good book for being able to do it, because you don't have to search your references to find it. You don't have to look online unless there's something that is hard to understand, but these descriptions are fairly easy, so it should be good for any beginning knitter or higher. She has the cast-ons, the knit, the purl stitch, increases, decreases, bind-offs, reading patterns, stitch types. These swatches are beautiful, and they're showing the different stitch patterns that she uses in her patterns in this book, and explains how to do them. Cables, she has the basic cables you need to do, intarsia color work, stranded color work, and weaving in ends. Seaming. I'm not fond of seaming. That was my least favorite part of doing this sweater, was seaming it up. Picking up stitches, knitting in the round, embroidery, and pom-poms. Then we come to the patterns. I'm not going to show you every pattern, and I'm not going to show you the instructions for any of the patterns, but I do want to point out some things that are in here that are noteworthy. She has a beautiful artistic picture in every one, plus pictures that show the different angles so that you can see what each pattern really looks like and how it will end up looking. This one is the baby shrug that I made, and I will talk a little more about that in a little bit when I'm done looking at the book. And so it is just, so this book really has a lot in it. I'm going to go ahead and go back to the back now. In the back, she has yarn distributors who distribute the yarns she used. And like I said, she is no longer producing yarn, and so these may not be the places, but I would guess some of these you could contact and they would be able to tell you a good yarn equivalent. She has a pattern glossary in the back that I wanted to show you what the 20 patterns are. She has not only a picture, and it's one of the better pictures to see what exactly the pattern is, and then she has the baby's age in months and then finished measurements for each one, so that you can look through to find what you want to look at, which pattern you might want to check out. So that's looking through the book, and now I want to go back and finish talking to you about the sweater and what I thought of the pattern and what changes I made. The pattern I chose is the baby shrug. I used a basic white acrylic yarn, and it was given to me by a wonderful lady in exchange for a shawl I made for her. The pattern was easy to follow. It came out quite nice. It's white, which makes it harder to show on camera, but it came out very nice. I did the size 12 to 18 months for my granddaughter. I'll be visiting her next week, so this will give me the opportunity to give it to her. It should be big on her now, but then she will be able to grow into it and wear it for a long time. I'll be able to take pictures of her wearing it next week while I'm there visiting. I wanted to tell you about my experience with making the sweater, the things I liked and disliked about it. When I was making this, then at first I was a little unsure of what I was casting on and how it was going to work. Come to find out, I was actually casting on at the bottom. She didn't say bottom, up, and then back down again. So you cast on at the bottom, you increase on each side as you go up a little bit to give it a curved effect. You go up to the top, increasing for the sleeves, then continue knitting until you start coming down, then you separate for the neck, and then come down each side. Now, I made a little change here when I did it, because she wanted you to do one side and then go and do the other. I really prefer to do both at the same time, so I bound off for the neck and then went ahead and had a second ball and went back and forth along them to do the sides at the same time. I have a tendency to have trouble keeping count of my rows, and that way if I made a mistake, it was a mistake on both sides, and so it would come out even. I don't think I made any mistakes though. Another thing I didn't like is I am not fond of seaming, and Debbie Bliss uses a lot of seaming in her patterns. Now that's a preference thing. It's not a problem with the pattern. It's just my preference. I don't prefer seams. Not that I'm actually fairly good at doing the seams and I don't mind it that much. I just don't like seams in the garment. I don't like the actual seams, especially on baby things. And so if I make this again, I will probably, I'm not exactly sure how I would do it. I think you can't really do it without seams for this particular one, but I'd look into some of the others to see if I could do it. The one change I did make, and I might make, when I did the sleeve, you were supposed to do the ribbing for the cuff on the sleeve before you seamed it. I didn't really like the idea of having a seam on the cuff. It tends to be a little bit tighter there, and it can be a little aggravating on the wrist. So I went ahead and seamed first and then did the cuff in the round. I had to decrease a lot, or I had to decrease the number of stitches I picked up quite a bit in order to make this fit. And I went down 2 sizes because otherwise it flared out and looked really bad. It does a little bit of flaring on the ribbing around the main body, but not much, and it looks a little bit ruffly. If I do it again, I will seam first, and so I don't have a seam in the ribbing on the sides either, but it's really not that big a deal. You can barely actually tell the seaming there. It's almost like part of the rib. So that really isn't a big deal, it's just my preference. The shrug turned out looking quite nice. I'm happy with it. I would really like to see it on my granddaughter and see just how it looks on a child. I think it will look lovely, and it will be very usable on a lot of items. That's why it's white, so that she can wear it with a lot of different dresses and other clothes without any clashing or any problems. So I hope you enjoyed my video. I'll see you next time. Bye.